Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wal aqibatu lil muttaqeen. As-salatu was-salamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'een. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Inshallah, we will begin our today's discourse and session of Seerat al-Mustafa SAW. Previously, we discussed the full-time involvement of Prophet ﷺ into business, and that he was known as Amin by everyone, to the extent where Khadija RA approached Prophet ﷺ and gave him a task because she wanted to see what Prophet ﷺ is like and who is this man who everybody talks about in good terms. Hence, she sent with him her slave Maysara, and he basically looked at Prophet ﷺ from every perspective and narrated the whole incident, what he saw from beginning till the end. Now, Khadija radiallahu anha finds Prophet ﷺ a desirable spouse, someone who possesses all the qualities of a good spouse, a good husband. And not only that he will be a great provider for the family, a great nourisher, and a fostering person who will foster a great environment in terms of family. Hence, Khadija radiallahu anha sends Prophet ﷺ the message of Nikkah. But just before she sends the message of Nikkah to the Prophet ﷺ, she just wanted to get confirmation. Hence, she takes all that information that she got from Maysara of all the incidents that took place to Warqa bin Nawfal, who was a rahib, who knew the people of the book, who was from the people of the book, and he was always at the deen of Ibrahim ﷺ as well, and knew the signs of the new upcoming prophet. She tells him everything that the Maysara told her, and he says that look, all these incidents, if they are true, then this is, yani Muhammad SAW is the Nabi Akhirul Zaman, who we are waiting for, and his time has come very close. So it must be him, that Prophet ﷺ is the Nabi. So in her heart became even more desirable. Look, it is a blessed honor that this individual Muhammad SAW is not only going to be a spouse, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the near future will bless him with prophethood. And obviously, being a wife of the Nabi, she understood the virtue behind it. Hence, she immediately sends the message of Nikkah. Prophet ﷺ made mashwara with his uncle, and he accepted her proposal. One thing needs to be understood over here, that making mashwara when it comes to marriage is extremely important. We need to take our elders into trust, in confidence, and tell them, if we are interested in someone, then we should not take the loopholes and go behind the doors and do things behind their back, run away from home, do these things. It is the most appropriate, and the ta'lim of Shariat is, and this Seerat al-Nabi is telling us, that look, always make mashwara with your elders. He had no father, he had no mother, he had nobody. His uncle was the closest thing to him, so he made mashwara with him. And along with his uncles, Hazrat Hamza and Abu Talib, he goes and he basically gets married to Khadija radiallahu anha. It is mentioned by Mubarrad that at the time of the Nikkah, only Khadija radiallahu anha's uncle was present, because her father Khuwaylid passed away in Harb al-Fujjar. As I mentioned previously, it was a war between the Quraysh tribes, so he passed away during that time. Some mention that no, the father Khuwaylid himself was present. However, Allama Suhaili rahmatullah alayhi mentions that the Mubarak's narration is more authentic and more stronger. It was only the uncle was present. The meher of Khadija radiallahu anha was about 20 camels which comes up to 500 dirhams of Shara'i, meher that we established nowadays as well. Other thing is that the age of Prophet ﷺ was only 25 years of age, and Khadija radiallahu anha was 40 years of age. This is a great lesson for those who criticize Prophet ﷺ, that he was someone who wanted multiple wives, who enjoined, lust and desire. Unfortunately, the haters and the critics and ignorant ones, they say these things. But this first marriage tells us the Prophet ﷺ, if he was looking for lust and desire, if he was looking for carnal desires in his marriage, he would have made someone much, much younger than Khadija radiallahu anha. As a matter of fact, younger than him as well. But he did not. He made a 40-year-old woman to show that this was not his desire. Anbiya are not someone who are looking for, lust and desire and carnal desires. That's not their fitrat. That's not their tabiyat. We have this unfortunate, we are like this as a human beings. We feel that Anbiya are not like that, and especially Prophet ﷺ was definitely not like this. So we should feel that this should be an answer. And if somebody wants to criticize, let them criticize. They will not learn. They're ignorant and they'll remain ignorant. And this is what I personally feel, that this marriage is a great sign. The Prophet ﷺ first marriage and the longest marriage, like in terms of, he did not make any Nikkah until Khadija was alive. This tells us what kind of a man he was, how dedicated he was to his wife, how dedicated he was as a parent, as a father. If he was looking for carnal desires, making multiple, he could have made at the time, when you're young, your jazbat are very, very high. You have utmost shahwat. If you want to do this, you're not going to marry a 50-year-old at the time of 50-year-old and going to fulfill your shahwat. It's not the same. It's just not the same. And then Anbiya ﷺ are very different, right? All these marriages had their own purpose, and this will all be discussed when the Halat Ummahatul Mu'mineen will come, and everything will be discussed at the time, why every marriage took place, what was the wisdom behind it. But people who want to criticize are unfortunately sick into their souls, into their hearts. The sickness has completely penetrated them, hence they want to say full of bakwas and complete, discredit stuff, things that are not authentic at all. As a matter of fact, they have sickness in their heart, and all they think is they have hate for Islam and Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Hence, they come up. We as Muslims should be content in our heart. We should not have anything. A lot of times Muslims ask, why did Prophet, especially young ones, teenagers, they don't understand these things, and people, as they go through different schooling systems, and they are bombarded with these questions. Oh, your Prophet made a 9-year-old. Oh, your Prophet made this. Your Prophet made so many women. He was looking for this. We should be content. If Prophet ﷺ was looking for women, he could have got anybody and everyone. He was the known person. He was the most desirable spouse, if anything, in the Quraysh. Anybody would have married him. He didn't. He married a 40-year-old woman. This tells us. And she's not just 40-year-old virgin woman. She already had one Nikkah, and she already had one engagement that was taken. She had, she had multiple relationships before she came into Nikkah. Prophet. He married that woman. So that tells us that this Nabi of Allah is a true Nabi and sincere Nabi. He has all the qualities and traits. But we don't, people want to deny Prophet's prophethood, so they come up with these loopholes and these, ignorant talk. We should ignore these people. Lakum dinukum waliya din. We are happy with our Nabi, we are happy with our deen, and we are happy with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is our conclusion. Then, Muslim Rahmatullah Alayhi is mentioning an incident that took place just before the prophethood, meaning 5 years before prophethood, when Prophet ﷺ was 35 years of age. The RA-Kaaba and Prophet ﷺ's wisdom and his hikmah and his, great spirit of keeping people together, the forbearance and the patience, how he dealt with issues. This is one of the great incidents that took place before prophethood. So the RA-Kaaba, or the development of Kaaba, took place 5 times in the history. The first time it took place was Adam alayhi salatu wassalam, when he laid the foundations of Kaaba, and Prophet Allah Ta'ala guided him. Jibreel Amin came down and guided him where to build the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Adam alayhi salatu wassalam did the development and building of the Kaaba. And we know this from the ayat, Inna awwala baytin wudi'a linnati lalladhi bi Bakkata mubarakan. This ayat tells us and makes ishara towards this first development, because Allah Ta'ala is mentioning the very, very first house was built. And so obviously built by Adam alayhi salatu wassalam, and he made tawaf of it. After Adam alayhi salatu wasalam, Hazrat Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam's time came up, and when the storm and when the water came out from the time of Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam, the azab-e-Nuh, obviously the entire planet was wiped out from the Fujjar and the Kuffar, and obviously the Kaaba was vanished as well, was destroyed, and obviously its foundations were disappeared basically. So second time, Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, وَاتَّخَذَ اللَّهُ إِبْرَاهِيمَ خَلِيلًا. This is the Kitab al-Anbiya in the Bukhari Sharif, and Hafiz Hajar has done a fantastic job in doing the tashri of it and telling us the whole incident. If anybody wants details, they can look it up over there in Fathul Bari. He, along with his son Ismail alayhi salatu wasalam, and in the many verses of the Quran, Allah Ta'ala has mentioned how he built the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ibrahim ﷺ was guided by, again, Jibreel Amin. He basically showed him those foundations that Adam ﷺ built. And Ibrahim ﷺ, on top of that, built more foundations and built the house of, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Kaabatullah. The third time, which is the topic of our discussion, that took place just before the Ba'isat and the Nabuwat has come down. Just before that, 5 years before that, Kaaba was built. The fourth time, it was built by Abdullah ibn Zubair, and the fifth time it was built by Hajjaj ibn Yusuf. The topic of discussion we're going to go through is why the need came up and what was the background behind it. At the time of Quraysh, obviously the old building or the Kaaba's old foundations and basically the structure became extremely weakened, and it was really old in that sense. Hence, Quraysh, started negotiating, and from them, Abu Wahab ibn Umar ibn Makhzumi, who was the uncle of Prophet ﷺ's father, the Mamu of Prophet ﷺ's father, he basically said to Quraysh that, look, if we are going to do this, if we are going to build this house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then we need to build it with utmost sincerity, and we need to build it with the mal which is halal, completely halal. We will not include in this development, in this auspicious task, we will not include any mal from zina, from stealing, from any kind of usury or interest, and we will put 100% halal mal into it. Everybody agreed, because he said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pure and pak and tahir, hence Allah ta'ala loves pak things for himself as well, and therefore the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also deserves that. So they all agreed, and they divided the task of who's going to build which end of the Kaaba. The side of the door was given to Bani Abd Manaf and Bani Zahra. Hajar Aswad, and between Hajar Aswad and Rukn Yamani came under Bani Makhzum and the other Qabail of Quraysh and the tribes of the Quraysh. The Baytullah's backside, meaning the opposite side, came to Bani Jamha and Bani Saham. And Hatim came under Bani Abdul Dar ibn Qusa and Bani Asad and Bani Adi. These three tribes basically took over the Hatim area, and they basically did the construction of that. In the midst of all this, Quraysh found out that there was a ship that has embarked and has basically came to the shores of Jeddah and has basically been destroyed over there. Maybe got into an accident. It is not mentioning what happened to it, and it has been completely shattered and broken. Walid ibn Mughira heard about this news and immediately ran and got to Jeddah and basically procured for the building of Kaaba the planks, and because the ships have very strong foundations and planks, and the wood that is being used is very stronger. So obviously he got all these items from there, and he even found some other goods that were beneficial for the building of the Kaaba. So he basically got that for the purpose of construction. Not including that is for the purpose of construction. They'll use those planks to get up, and obviously those foundations, and they have to build up the wall and everything for that purpose. Now, to begin the construction, it was very difficult for Quraysh, because they also respected the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even though they worshipped the idols and everything, but they knew that the Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is the actual Khalik and Malik. And obviously He's the Rabb of this house as well. He's the Rabb of the house. He's the only Rabb of the house. I apologize. So hence, to break it, and to start constructing, this is something that, they have never done it before. And so they were afraid as to what needs to be done. Walid ibn Mughira took and he said, Allahumma la nuridu illa al-khayr. And he raised that voice and he immediately broke the foundations. People were scared, that what's going to happen. So they waited. They waited for the whole morning. If something happens to Walid ibn Mughira, then we know this is a sign from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we should not do anything to this house. We should not touch this house. Hence they waited. And once they waited, they woke up in the morning, they saw Walid ibn Mughira being fine and nothing has happened to him. So they started constructing and everybody helped. And they were completely engaged and fully enthusiastic into building the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they started constructing whatever the dedicated tasks were for every single tribe. One of the Qurayshis, he basically found the foundations of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. So he started digging even more further. And then all of a sudden, they heard a big blast of sword in the Meccan area. And they realized that this is a sign from Allah Ta'ala that we should not go beyond the foundation of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. Meaning that those foundations have to be left alone and they should not be touched. These are the actual foundations we should start building from. So they did that. And they started doing the foundational work. Now the great task comes of putting back the Hajar Aswad back to its place. Now Hajar Aswad was auspicious and dear to every single tribe of the Quraysh. Every single tribe wanted to take this opportunity and be blessed with this great work. And they all were not willing to give it to anybody. They said, I will do it. The other said, I will do it. The other said, I will do it. And all of a sudden, Quraysh, being the Quraysh at that time, the only thing they knew to settle issues was to take out their swords and settle it for once and for all. So they all took out their swords and they were like, let's see who gets it first. Whoever finishes whoever and whoever survives will be able to do it. In this whole midst, Abu Umayyah bin Mughira Makhzumi says that look, because he was the wise man and he was the oldest amongst them all, he said that look, we have done this great work. Let's not ruin it by doing something that is not appropriate and that will lead to destruction, forever destruction. Let's make someone else our Faisal, meaning that who will decide amongst us. And whomsoever walks in the next morning to Masjidul Haram, we will make him the decision maker, the wali and the qazi basically. And who can it be? It was a decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because Allah ta'ala has intended for Prophet ﷺ to be a prophet, and this was a sign for them as well, that they accepted his decision making. They all had full faith and trust in Prophet ﷺ. So it was Prophet ﷺ walked in, and the moment Prophet ﷺ walked in, they immediately got happy. Everybody was like, you know what? Every single one of them had full trust in Prophet ﷺ. Nobody ever disagreed with Prophet ﷺ. So they said, Haza Muhammadul Aminu Radayna, Haza Muhammadul Amin. That they were so happy that they said, this is the Sadiq and the Amin, the most trustworthy amongst all of us. We will listen to him, definitely. And Prophet ﷺ, being Prophet ﷺ, the Rehmah lil Alameen, he had great wisdom how to collaborate, and everybody collaborates into this task, and also to keep everybody united on this task, that nobody feels that they were left out. He basically says, look, I will, put out there a garment or a chadar or whatever you want to call it, a spread or a sheet, and we'll put the Hajar Aswad in it, and every tribe will hold its end, and every single one of us will be responsible of putting it back. Hence they all agreed onto this decision, and everybody was blessed with this opportunity of putting back Hajar Aswad to its spot. And this was basically the wisdom. Again, we need to take lesson that this was done for there was a great wisdom behind it by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah ta'ala wanted to show Quraysh, even from before, that look, you have listened to this person, this individual, for your day-to-day decision making, for your businesses. You have trusted someone, you've called him Amin. So if he was to declare prophethood, it shouldn't be something unusual to you. It was only the malice and the jealousy and the hatred for Prophet ﷺ that turned them against Prophet ﷺ. But khair, we will discuss that once we move forward. And then Muslim Rahmatullah also mentions these points about Rusum al-Jahiliyyat and how Anbiya used to abstain and, keep themselves away from these things. So there are many instances that are mentioned. And one thing that Muslim mentions that even before they were prophets being prophets, or having been bestowed with prophethood, they were always known as the Wali and the Siddiq. They had those titles, they always had that so to say, position in a sense, in the society, in the community that they were in. That they were always, people would go to them for decision making. People would go to them regularly and ask them to resolve any matter. Right? And he mentions about many Anbiya, and how Allah Ta'ala mentions, وَآتَيْنَاهُ الْحُكْمُ الصَّبِيَّ وَحَنَّانًا وَغَيْرَ ذَلِكَ. This is mentioned regarding Hazrat Yahya alayhi salatu wasalam, Surah Maryam, I believe. And this is how Allah Ta'ala has always mentioned. Even Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, before prophethood, even though he was under the care of Fir'aun, he was someone who was of part of the council and part of someone who was someone people would trust in terms of decision making as well. Right? It is mentioned that Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam was asked by Hazrat Ali radiallahu anh, that have you ever, tasted alcohol? Have you ever done anything fuhush? Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam said, never. I have never done anything fuhush. Then Zayd ibn Haris also mentioned that the time of Jahiliyyah, I was doing tawaf with Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, and mushrikeens would, touch the Asaf and Naila, the two idols that were there, and they would make tawaf. Because like I said, they had a different way of doing tawaf, even though they made tawaf of Kaabatullah, but they had idols for different things. So they would, do some sort of rituals over there. But Prophet ﷺ would never. He would abstain himself. He would, turn away from these idols, and he would do this tawaf. So he asked, can I touch them? He said, no, don't do it. But he basically, wanted to see what Prophet ﷺ says. So he goes, reaches out. As soon as he reaches out, Prophet ﷺ got really upset, and he really told him that do not touch it. And, it was basically a means of scolding to Zayd ibn Haris. And Zayd ibn Haris immediately refrained from it, and hence never touched those two idols ever. It is mentioned that another narration from Ali radiallahu anh, he mentioned that Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, one time when he was a teenager, when he was a young boy, when he was a shepherd as well, obviously. So he, along with his companion, who was his sathi, who was with him when he used to go for grazing on the animals, and he would take the animals of the Quraysh, and when he was a shepherd, he one time because being a teenager, he wanted to go to some of these celebrations that they would do at the time of weddings. So he said to his sathi that, look, you take care of these animals that I have, and I will go to this this event that I want to see what these people do. But it was the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that he was going to be taken a great work. Hence, when he reaches there, and he asked people, where is that, about the wedding, and what are these people doing? They said, this is the way they celebrate the weddings and whatever. It's like they listen to music and they dance or whatever. So he wanted to see, and the moment he wanted to, before even his ears laid any voice of music, immediately Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put him to sleep, and he fell asleep. The second time he does the same thing, and he tells his sathi, and the second time the same thing happens, and Allah ta'ala puts him to sleep. So he realized this was a sign that he shouldn't be there, and he basically never ever went back to it. There's another narration that when at the time of Kaaba, the building of Kaaba, Hazrat Abbas, the uncle of Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, radiyallahu anh, told Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam to, because it's a great labor work. We need to understand that we're not talking about today with bulldozers and, it's all physical work with their own bare hands they were doing. So he said to Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, look, and it's a hot weather. We need to understand that it's extremely hot weather, hot conditions. He tells Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, look, why don't you remove your tehband. Now, if you want to understand tehband in today's day and age, it's called lungi. Lungi, a garment you put on, basically, or shalwar that you put on. That's called tehband. But inside they used to wear like something like an underwear, and this will basically cover them from above the knees till their satar is covered till their to the kamar area or to the waist area. So they would wear this garment. So how we wear underwears today or shorts or whatever, and then on top of that, they'll wear tehband. So he told them to open up the outside garment, the tehband. And Prophet ﷺ was about to open it up, and immediately, he got unconscious. it is narrated by Abu Tufail that a voice came to Prophet ﷺ at the time that, Ya Muhammad, awrataka, O Muhammad, take care of your satar, do not open it. Basically, that was the intention there. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu mentioned that Prophet ﷺ was shown a white man, a man extremely white. He was telling him, do not open your garment, take care of your garment, your satar, and basically take care of yourself in that way. Because once again, we need to understand that Anbiya, their entire life is protected by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because if their lives are in any shape or form contaminated or tainted by any way, anybody could say, you know what, that person did this, this and this, and hence nobody would believe. And obviously they are coming to this world for what? Tawheed, and to propagate the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It has to be some individual who's pure, even before prophethood and after being a prophet. Obviously he has to be one pure. And then Musa Rahmatullah is mentioning, I'm just going to go very briefly into this, that how Badatul Wahi, yani just before they're about to get the revelations, and revelations are about to come, they get glad tidings in other forms and shape, which is mostly the way of good dreams. They will see good dreams, and they'll be given these sort of glad tidings that, you will be given some great work that you'll have to do. So they are shown all these things, and they are, all these sifat of Anbiya alayhi salatu wasalam, that they are protected by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number one is the character building is extremely pure and noble. And then they are refrained, and they're protected from going towards vices and evil things. So their whole life is under the protection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is what Musharrif is mentioning about different prophets in this tafsir. And he has done a great work in terms of various riwayats and various verses of the ayat and everything that he brought forth of different Anbiyas. So we have in our hearts full contentment that Anbiya are true and in haqq. So never ever should our hearts ever feel like there's any kind of malice. Out there are many people who try to deviate us, who try to say things. And it's a great message for those who claim prophethood even after Prophet ﷺ, that Anbiya are kamil, they are protected. If you're claiming prophethood, and if you're the follower of that prophet, first look at that individual who he is. What kind of a person he is. Like, does he even fall into this category? Absolutely not. He's not even protected. His past is not protected. Nobody knows what he was like in the past. Anbiya alayhi salatu wasalam, everybody knew that this person is, someone who has not done anything bad. Anbiya alayhi salatu wasalam, and Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam specifically, look at it. He was known as Amin from the beginning. He was known for his business relationships. Like he was really out there. Like individual, nobody would deny that, this person is lying. That's basically it. Like if you want to, basically in a nutshell, if you want to understand that this person cannot, lie. He's not someone who's going to say something like this. Okay, I'm a prophet out of nowhere. Like he's not someone, like, people made the claim, last 100 years, whatever, about false prophethood. We don't even know who they are. And how can they be? First of all, just aqli way, if you want to think about it, that just in a logical way, how can somebody be, Mirza Qadiani or someone like that can be Nabi? Like, we don't even know anything about them, really. And their end was such horrible one. They died in the bathroom or something. Like, what does that tell us? If they were individuals, this akal should tell you that. And then people are making claims that they're Anbiya, they're Nabi, they're this and that. Well, where is he getting revelation? Like, all these are questions, right? Logically, you can deny it. Let alone you talk about any riwayat, any ayat of the Quran. Just logically, all these sifat, they did not possess a single sifat, let alone any sifat in total. And then, these people make claims and people follow them blindly too, like as if, oh, you know what, and we are the victims of, persecutions or whatever. It's unfortunate. You're ignorant, that's all you are. And, whatever is welfare benefits that you will get, you make a buck out of whatever, certain people protect them and whatever. Nevertheless, we're not here to, create any kind of, controversies or whatever. Hence, this was my message in terms of seerah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us understanding of the seerah of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. May Allah ta'ala give us the true love for our Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam as Ummahat al-Mu'mineen and the Ashab al-Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from evil vices, and may Allah ta'ala, make us amongst those who are pious, who are the ummati of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.